Welcome to Impact TV, a corporate venture video series in collaboration with the Kaufman Fellows. I'm Jack Crawford, a founding general partner at Impact Venture Capital. Alongside my colleague from Impact, Pat Bumpus, and my Kaufman Fellow co-chair, Alessandro Santo, we're thrilled to welcome to the show Nobu Morita, Director of Innovation at NECX. Nobu, welcome.
Hi, thank you for
Yeah,
having me.
my understanding is you live in San Francisco. The NECX is in Palo Alto, and you're spending a little bit of time mentoring at Techstars LA. Are you zipping around California like I am?
Yeah, well, right now I try to stay at home and work at home. We work remote as well, and so yeah. But yeah, I mainly work in San Francisco. Maybe sometimes Palo Alto.
Okay. Okay, great. We made an investment into a flying car that's just got FAA certification. So if you need any help, we'll be taking those trips sometime in the near future. I'll make sure to make those available for you as well.
Well, yeah, well, NEC also invested in one of the flying car companies in Japan.
Oh, is that right? What's the name? Because I'm always
It's
interested to hear about new companies in that space.
Yeah, it's called a SkyDrive. There are several the drone companies you can ride on the drone based in Japan.
Oh, okay, great, great. Let's see. So you've been with NEC for a number of years. I'm wondering if you could tell us about sort of the early days at NEC and how that prepared you for your role in corporate venture now.
Yeah, sure. So I came to the States in 2011 and as a product manager at the NEC Corporation America. And at the time, the product manager were more like responsible for entire product businesses in a North American region. And so I was responsible for my product, which is the data storage at a data center. And not NEC developed the product using NEC lab technologies. And we are in a very strong emerging market. And so very naturally, my competitors were all startups. And so we're able to establish the decent size of business. However, the market leader was a startup, which was acquired by Dell EMC for over $2 billion dollars. So I've been competing against the startups and feeding the overhead within a large corporation. And as I needed to move really fast to catch up with a startup. So when a product life cycle almost like an ending and went into more like a later maturity stage, then I started thinking about the new product businesses. However, I had a huge, I don't say huge, but I had some the overhead and within a big corporation. So I thought that now if I have to do the new or the business or the product, then it has to be a startup. And I see that the startups is more like a design for the new businesses, right? However, the large corporation like NEC, we are optimized for the scaling the business. So it's a different animals. But if we wanted to do something new, then there has to be startups. Then that's how I ended up with founding NECX Venture Studio in 2018.
So NEC has been mostly focused on aviation, biometrics, law enforcement, smart cities type applications. Is that where NECX is focused with some of the acceleration and incubation that you're doing with your platform?
Yeah, sure. Well, NEC does a lot of things, and any industry, I would say, we touch in any industries. Of course, aviation, public safety. Those are like the big areas that we can play globally. And so, yeah, the public safety is one of the areas that we are looking at. And from the technology side, AI is the one of the strongest that NEC has. So, and the healthcare and the marketing, those two are the areas that we see that we can use our AI and help the startups and founders. And the last three, the agri-tech, is another focus areas that we're looking at because that traditionally that not agriculture is a little behind in terms like a digitalization. So, but on the other hand, there should be a good opportunities for us. And if we can bring the digital transformation technologies At the same time, it's always like it has a good connection to the sustainability that everybody talk about, like a carbon neutrality.
Hmm. And was there any specific reason that you guys launched NECX and sort of did you have well identified objectives in mind? I mean, I've seen corporates launch acceleration programs, incubator programs, and even corporate venture groups to gather market insight, to help with deal flow. Sometimes they're looking to identify companies early in line with an acquisition strategy. Can you talk a little bit about sort of why this was launched and maybe any specific objectives?
Yeah, sure. Of course, there was a more my personal not passion about the new businesses, and about from the NEC perspective, uh, there was a huge gap like between R&D labs and the current business unit. And now the business unit, now usually look at the more like the quarterly numbers and the need to have like a billion-dollar businesses. And on the other hand, like the R&D, it takes time, like incubating a new businesses from the labs. It takes way too long for BUs. So now that's kind of like the business challenge from the NEC perspective. And however, any businesses established like an enterprise company, they have to build something new. Otherwise, the creating a new business is the key to be to sustain a company. And so how to the bridge the gap is something like that we wanted to do, and starting NECX is not the solution that we came up with.
We've had a little bit of success with a venture studio model, and I know you guys are executing on that as well. We took identified software within a larger corporation that had been worked on for about 4 years, spun it out and put it into a startup, and then built out the management team, invested in the company. And now what we found is that as opposed to it being a seed stage company and we have to wait, sort of 6 or 8 years for it to create real value, it already has a few $100,000 of ARR recurring revenue from customers. It's got a product development. It's got a team, and so we feel like it's accelerated the path to value creation by taking advantage of 4 years of development inside of a larger corporation. That's how we've executed on a venture studio model. Can you talk a little bit about your experience with that model?
Yeah, definitely. So like we definitely have some like carve out cases, no, out of the NECX, and those are usually kind of like you can say kind of like the deep tech type of the companies, and the deep tech companies they have to spend like 3 or 4 years for the technology development, and it costs a lot. Like you need a lot of capital, even though like for the startups. But if you take a look at IPs and the technology out of the corporate labs, they've been always spending quite a lot of money, and they have like the researchers like not there, but the people are working in the startups. They have like a resource constraint and the money constraint. So if you want to do like some deep tech startups, it is a good idea to take some IPs out from the big corporate.
And there's innovation, there's human capital, and then you have an active corporate venture arm as well, right? Can you just talk about what that, for someone that's just learning about NEC, NECX, and its corporate venture arm, can you describe sort of how those all work together?
Yeah, for other within NECX that we have like a funding no team and the supporting team like engineers and not I'm also work with that entrepreneurs day to day, so kind of like a mentor type of the role, and also as well as for like the project lead within NECX. So we tend to like keep the team small, like an NECX is small, but it has all the function that we need. So we again like we have like the supporting team, engineering team, like a funding team. No, we probably like a total maybe little over like a 10 people team, and handling usually like over 10 projects at once. I mean simultaneously.
And are you relying on the business units at NEC for due diligence or support? Are there any approvals required? You know, some corporate venture arms, as you may be familiar, require business unit sponsorship. How does that work within NEC and NECX?
Today's most of the decision made within NECX. Although like we have access to all the expertise that NEC all the NEC has, right? And like you said, each of the BU has a deep insight in the industry, and we can also talk to our research to talk about like for the technology due diligence example. So we
Hmm.
have like business side and technology side. We have like a 10,000 like employees, and if you include all the the subsidiaries, it will be for like 100,000 people within NEC group, and we have access to those like people who has like each of like expertise. However, the decision has to be not quick, and so no, if you has to involve someone like in Japan or someone headquarter, it takes time. So that's something like we try to avoid.
A few years back, I was the moderator of a panel of corporate venture groups that included some corporate incubators, some accelerators, in effect, and probably 80 or so attendees that were all from the corporate venture world. And they were looking at ways in which they could collaborate together, co-investing in deals and sharing some market insight. How are you collaborating with other corporations and with other traditional VC firms like Impact Venture Capital? Are you looking at sourcing investment opportunities, co-investing, sharing market insight? Is there anything in particular that you're doing with the traditional sort of corporate venture community? And then how are you interacting with the traditional venture community?
We don't today we don't interact with a corporate venture often, although we are getting a much interest from them because I think that what we're doing is quite unique from the corporate perspective. So if the any like the people from the corporate, if they wanted to learn what we're doing, not the we are welcome to have it, and so that's how we interact with them. In terms of like the traditional like institutional VCs or accelerators, no, we partner up with them, and from the sourcing the first of all like for our venture studio we more like starting from the very early stage, so we can source the good entrepreneurs um
Oops.
or early stage startups. Those are the too early for the VC to invest in. That's sort of one way. And we also do the C stage or Series A stage investment. In a case like we source the good deals from the partner VC accelerators.
Okay, I understand. And to calibrate me from a quantity standpoint, is this how many opportunities are you looking at sort of on an annual basis? I mean, you're narrowly focused on sort of particular industry sectors, and obviously it's higher quality opportunities that you're looking at, and you're spending a significant amount of time. We're seeing about 3,000 investment opportunities each year as a venture firm, but that's in a variety of sectors, in a variety of stages, all those kinds of things. I'm envisioning that you guys are a little bit more tightly focused. Is that true?
Yeah, although like we're industry agnostic, we have some focuses. However, no, we said that we are industry agnostic. We don't want to miss like any good opportunities by just no, not limiting the industry. However, yeah, of course, we not gonna go through like 3,000 the deals a year. Typically, however, it's maybe close to 1,000. So we run the two programs a year, and each of time like we have several hundreds of there were a few hundreds of the applications every time, and so the startup investment is the numbers game to some extent anyway. So we have to process the numbers, a big number. And today, like we have let's say like 300 applications per program. So which means that 600 the applications every year. And also on the other hand, we do have the seed stage investment. That's another the deals that we have to go through.
And then initial check size. Can you talk a little bit about sort of initial check size? I mean, I'm assuming these are all sort of seed and early stage opportunities that you're helping to sort of, launch or, in the very early stages. So that's stage from geography. I'm envisioning it's across the country, maybe around the world. It's global. And then can you talk about check size? Do I have it right with regard to stage and geography? And can you tell me a little bit about check size?
Yeah, I well, it depends. Maybe I can't say the exact numbers, but like you said, we start with a small the investment for the adventure studio side. But so just for the beginning, then now if we see the good opportunities, good progress through program, then we can double down. And for the seed stage Series A investment side, of course, it's also depends, but it's now because of the stage is and we not gonna be a lead investor and so on, so it's usually less than a million.
Yeah, it's similar to us. 500,000 to $1 million check size. Of course, oftentimes we do play the lead role and then actively co-invest alongside of corporates. You may know we've now invested alongside of Intel and Zoom and Yamaha and Kubota, Qualcomm, Applied Materials, and a bunch of others. So a big part of our firm strategy is to work with companies like yours because of the expertise that you bring by industry sector, and then also looking at co-investment opportunities. We're finding that corporates can add value with regard to market insight, with regard to sometimes product development resources,
Right, right.
sometimes customer traction. Are you finding that you're particularly good at adding value beyond capital in any one or more any one particular way?
Yeah, definitely. That's something like how we see the deals. Definitely that we wanted to be helpful and add value to the startups. And basically, because NECX, the business model is also like based on the capital return. So we have to eventually be able to increase the valuation of the portfolio company. So like you actually covered everything, I guess, like from the business side and even like from the technology side. And for example, I said that we do an agri-tech, and NEC has the digital farming software called a Cropscope. And so, it's the core part of the product that we have is an AI model to optimize like irrigation and fertilizer, but that we need an input data, and also we have to the control part based on the suggestion our AI model tells. And then we wanted to create an ecosystem to get the good data input and also like the control the irrigation of fertilizer. And then there we create sometimes like the software, the ventures, and then we sometimes invest in the startups around the ecosystem.
Is this a dedicated fund within NECX, or are you on a case by case basis going back to NEC and saying, hey, we've identified another opportunity. We'd like to put $1 million or $500,000 into this venture studio model or into this new opportunity? Talk a little bit about the fund structure.
Yeah, it's NECX. So yeah, the investment comes from the NECX the balance sheet, and so yeah, and of course the capital was no, basically NECX is 100% owned by the NEC. However, when the NECX makes an investment, it's from the NECX balance sheet.
Yeah, makes sense. Tell me a little bit about NEC and NECX's view on artificial intelligence and generative AI. I mean, many are saying that there's sort of three major innovations of our lifetime, sort of the internet, the iPhone, and now, generative AI. Pretty interesting wave of new innovation applied to just about every industry.
Right.
Can you talk a little bit about how NECX and NEC are thinking about generative AI and artificial intelligence more broadly?
Yeah, I mean, totally agree with what other people saying. Yeah, I'm not not like I don't have like the direct experience about the dot com era. However, I can imagine that the generative AI at this moment is when the internet was born, well, not more like it became available to everyone. And I can see that there's so many applications on the top of the generative AI to be born in the next 10 years. And the interesting thing, I mean, the exciting thing is like nobody knows who's gonna win. That's also like exactly like what happened in maybe 25 years ago. And so, and NEC also has our own LLM that we could support from like a more like foundation side. But creating application is more like you don't know what's coming. So that's something like we are working on in a current program as well. And so we should be able to talk about our generative AI based startups soon.
Does NEC, out of curiosity, one of our portfolio companies is working on security for large corporate LLMs. Is security an issue when you have employees sharing information and using sort of generative AI? Has NEC talked about the security aspects of LLMs much?
Yeah, sure. I think there are a few important points in the security space. Now, from the LLM context, and of course, like there should be the new thread when the people use the LLM that create a lot more like a new type of like an attacks, and so that not so pretty like we have to have like a then we has to have like a new way to protect from those like the new attacks. Uh, then the other side, another things that we also look at is, of course, right now the people not it's kind of like on-premise and a cloud, and the sharing information with the LLM is a little bit kind of like a touchy, and so and we have many government customers and the bank customers, and so they're not gonna be already adapted to use the LLM for their core system. So that's why like NEC developed the LLM, our own LLM that can be deployed on the on-premise servers. We just announced a new LLM called the Kotomi, which is the one of the most efficient LLM that you can run the LLM model on like a one or two GPUs no, GPU cards. So now you have to have like your on-premise servers to run the GPUs, and if you have to have like the many GPUs, then no, it's too much cost. So the efficiency, the computation efficiency to run LLM is important, and to secure your data when you use the LLM. So that's yeah, that's the part like we are looking at.
That's really helpful perspective. I'll share your insights with one of our portfolio companies. You may have heard of it. It's called Kornami. It's actually, we were the earliest investor in the company, and now it has raised follow-on capital from SoftBank and Applied Materials and
Hmm.
Qualcomm, laser focused on that particular application. So I'll share more information with you as a
Yeah.
sidebar. Um, Outside of artificial intelligence, can you talk about any other technologies that have really sort of captured your attention and where you think there's interesting opportunities in the next couple of years? We're trying to be a valuable window and filter into industry relevant deal flow for companies like NEC and others. And so the more that we can learn about areas of interest, the more valuable source of information and deal flow will be for you Is there anything outside of artificial intelligence that you think we should be really paying attention to and looking for that would be supportive of NECX or NEC?
Yeah, yeah, sure. Well, I would say that robotics are definitely interesting space, and maybe for the little like a longer shot, but the space is the something interesting, and the NEC has a very strong market footprint in the space industry. And NEC is the one. Now there are only like a two satellite manufacturers in Japan. The one of them is in NEC. And so that's something, and also like a what an NEC, sorry, the SpaceX does, like they're creating like a network in a space, right? But NEC is a networking company as well. So we have to think of like how if the and also like we do like the other cell network as well. But uh, if the everybody is going to use a space for the communication network, that's pretty something we have to do. One example that NEC is working on is the laser communication. Now, if you do like the networking in the space, of course, you're not gonna the wire, and it's not gonna be like it'll be like a different it's not gonna be like a wireless wave or anything, and it should be probably like a laser communication. So, but if it has to do like the laser network in a space, you have to develop the new technologies. And then if you build a network, it will be an infrastructure for the next like a new different like industry. Maybe you can build like a data center in a space. So I think that it's gonna be a little longer shot, but that's something like very interesting for me.
Is there any particular industry sectors with regard to robotics that you're looking at? We happen to have a company in the robotics space that's focused on the agriculture market,
Yeah,
picking strawberries and apples. We might have told you about that. Tell me a little bit more about what you're doing in the robotics space or what you're targeting.
sure. So one of the NECX companies called Vivo Tech, they are automating the pruning and the thinning and the harvesting farm. And so it's not like a full automation. However, now they're automating just a manual work that farmers do on a tractor. And so in the case, you can accelerate the work by 10x. And so that's sort of something like that we already done. And yeah, but like you said, agriculture, like a farming space, the labor shortage is definitely the big challenge. And the robotics or automation is that's something like that we have to no, we have to do something. Yeah.
I want to switch gears and ask you a question about how you prepare as a professional to sort of lead, an ecosystem within inside NEC and outside of NEC. Is there anything that you do on a regular basis to sort of stay in touch with market trends or stay sharp as a professional investor and mentor for these companies?
Yeah, sure. Pretty now, even COVID hit, the meeting people, especially in person, is very special, right? It creates not the different moment. So especially like the new people, exciting people, and that keeps me always updated, inspired, and so that is pretty like so I try to meet those people as much as possible. And pretty sort of one of the reasons that I live in San Francisco, that's sort of a very special space. I don't see any other place in the world that there are a lot of people coming by and from the anywhere and not anywhere in the world, right? And so that's something like that I'm doing, trying to do like a day-to-day basis.
And then I always like to ask, as you prepare sort of mentally and physically each day, is there any sort of morning routine that helps you get into sort of a zone of genius, as we like to refer to in the Coffin Fellows, sort of, bringing energy and enthusiasm and insight into each day. Any kind of regular morning routine that you feel helps sort of kickstart things?
So, well, right now I have two little daughters, and one is just 17 months, and the other one is just turned 2 months old. And so, when I put my daughter to bed, then I sometimes I gotta fall asleep, and maybe it's about like at 9 p.m. something. So then I actually can wake up the super early, and then I have a few hours to work on something I wanted to. It turns out like it is actually creates like a good routine for me.
I have three kids myself, and so I remember those days. And sometimes the mornings start very early, depending on
Right.
what time they wake up. So there's not sometimes it's a little challenging to put together a routine.
Right.
Well, on behalf of Impact Venture Capital and the Kaufman Fellows, thanks, Nobu, for taking the time to share a little bit of insight on what you're doing and some of the innovative approaches that you're taking at NEC and NECX. I really appreciated the opportunity to meet you and to learn a little bit more about your program. Thanks for making the time this week.